Steel Curtain Network.
Jorgito! Goes down! Najee Harris! DJ Watt!
What is up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Preview. We have a lot to talk about tonight. Brandon Aiyuk saga finally ends. Steelers on their little bye week before week one. You only see two people on the screen for those watching live. Dave Schofield will be joining us shortly, but Brian Davis is here. What's up, Brian?
Well, hey, I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad that even though he's not in black and gold, that saga, that narrative is over. I just, it had to go away. And it's funny, I was listening to a San Francisco show on the Fans First Sports Network, and they were saying the same thing. It was today's episode, and they thought he was as good as gone. It's funny, but they're like, please, this has just got to go away. So I'm glad it's gone away.
Okay, so we're going to talk about our thoughts on the situation and how it played out here in a second. And then we're going to talk about, and we're going to focus on what the Steelers do next, because really the guy's not going to be a member of the Steelers. So we're not going to spend a ton of time talking about him. But I do want to let everyone know that might be watching live, listening live, what the details of this deal are, because some people might just be hearing about this from the first time. So this is official now. Brandon Aiyuk has agreed on a 4-year, $120 million contract extension with $76 million in guarantees. So the hold in, or whatever you want to call it, is over. And Brandon Aiyuk will be returning to practice likely tomorrow, Friday, getting ready for their week 1 game against the New York Jets. So I'm going to go first, Brian, just real quick. I put this out on Twitter, and this really is just more of my thoughts about this saga in and of itself. I think one of the worst things that this did is that I've never seen it like this before. And Brian, maybe you can think of a moment where it was like this, where it seemed like everyone, like they were coming out of the woodwork. They're like termites, and everyone had a source all of a sudden. Everyone came up with a source. And some people are radio personalities. Some people are really just like us. They're fans. And I'm not here to say that anyone's source is good, bad, or indifferent. But I think what this situation did is it has a lot of people questioning where they get their news from and the sourced information. Like, who can you trust? I think this was a tough situation in that regard. And I just want to say, and Brian, you'll back me up on this, our source here at Steel Curtain Network has been spot on. It has been spot on. And he was the one that told us, and we told you over a month ago almost, the Steelers were out of it. They were done. Unless something drastic changed, they weren't interested in George Pickens anymore. And still, the mainstream media guys, the Ian Rappaports, the Mike Garofalo, the Tom Pelisseros, all of them were just continually saying it over and over again. And I got to be honest, there was a time where our doubt crept in my brain and said, well, shoot, are we telling the truth? Lo and behold, our source ended up being spot on once again. And so that's all I want to say about this. Like, Brandon Aiyuk, if he came to Pittsburgh, that's cool. He's a great player, would have made the offense phenomenal. I would have been curious what they gave up, but ultimately, I think this is more damaging to the fans than anything else. Brian, what's your take?
Yeah, absolutely. Because one, we crave news like this as a fan base. And what happens is one believable rumor changes everything. I mean, everybody's like, my gosh, people have changed their Twitter handles to Aiyukberg and stuff like that a month ago. And this was the week, I think the first one was on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, the source show that we were talking about. And that was about August 6th. So it's been that long. And once again, spot on. And I've had the opportunity to talk to the source just as much, just like you have, not just as much, but just like you have. And it's a situation where it's like, hey, this is what I'm reporting, but you have other outlets going to try to throw it out there and make it look like it's happening. And now they're not apologizing. Now they're just hoping it goes away.
Yeah.
So, and those are supposed to be credible sources. So I like the way you said it. Yeah. Be careful where you get it. but I think in a little bit of time, now we've been around longer because of, different initials here, but now that we're SCN, the people that we are surrounding ourselves with are making us a credible news source. And I don't brag on much, but I'm going to hang our hat on that because we are bringing it to you. So if it sounds like I'm bragging, yeah, on a resume, you brag. On a job interview, you brag. On a date, you lie and brag, and then you hope that she doesn't figure it out, or he figures it out. So no, anyways, I'm proud of the way this situation was handled. Jeff, I'm going to give you credit because you were the one that corralled all this information and presented it the right way, so we didn't get ahead of ourselves. So I mean, kudos to you as well.
I appreciate that. Thomas said that I might have misspoke and said George Pickens when I meant Brandon Aiyuk. My apologies. George Pickens is still on the Steelers. He's not going anywhere, hopefully for a long time. So I'm glad that I don't have to say Brandon Aiyuk unless I'm doing an NFL podcast. But on the Steel Curtain Network, I'm glad I don't have to talk about that anymore. But now let's switch gears and let's now look ahead to a lot of fans now are like, okay, it's over with. Thank God it's over with. But what do we do now? What are the Steelers going to do now? Because I think they looked at the receiving depth chart and they saw after the cutdown day, George Pickens, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin III, Scotty Miller, and who am I forgetting?
Roman Wilson.
And they're like, that can't be it. They're going to have to make a move. And so other teams cut players, and everyone's like, okay, this is a guy they could pick up. And then like a Scotty Miller's gone. They don't pick that player up. So the question that a lot of people ask now is, what do they do? I mean, Bryan, are you now at this stage of the game with most of those players that were released have found homes? Trades, I guess, could still happen, but are very unlikely. Are you someone that just is like relegating themselves to saying, this is it? This is what it's going to be?
Pretty much. Is Noah Brown, has he been picked up?
Yes. I think Noah Brown, there were two guys that everyone was talking about. Noah Brown was the Texans receiver, correct?
Yes.
I think one of them went to Detroit. I just can't remember which one.
Well, Donovan Peoples-Jones was cut by Detroit and went back there. And he went there as a back on the practice squad. So if somebody did want to pluck them, they absolutely could.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting as it pertains to what the Steelers do next. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think the Steelers are screwed. I can't say that. I can't say the Steelers are screwed just because one trade doesn't come through. I think that for me, I think about this situation and I think about maybe I'm wrong here, and Bryan, correct me if I am. To me, it's not about the wide receivers as much as it is the quarterbacks. Like the Steelers have to find that quarterback. Then let's worry about the guys getting open. Because I think Van Jefferson is going to be a diamond in the rough for this team this year.
I do too, Jeff.
I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be a very bright spot for this offense. Do I think he's a verifiable WR2? No, probably not. But still, what's your take on that, Bryan, and the quarterbacks?
So I really think that, first of all, I think preseason is very deceiving. They do not show you what you need to see. Everything that goes on more in practice and in the closed part of practice as well, because there's a lot of cloak and dagger stuff, that you're dealing with here, and you almost have to because intel gets out so easily. Mike Tomlin did make a comment today about, yes, you are going to see. He didn't confirm it, but he kind of alluded to the fact that, yeah, there's going to be Justin Fields packages in every single week, possibly. And if that works, that could throw some people off. But the thing that I think everybody has to remember, and something that I am telling myself, there's two things that we just don't really look at here, even though some of us have. The first is that your wide receiver 2 might just really be Pat Freiermuth in that tight end position. The way that
hold on, Bryan. Hold on. Let me ask you a question about Pat, because I was going to ask this anyway. So you brought it up. Do you seriously think he's that good? Like, do you
Oh,
think
yeah.
he is that type of player? Not a Travis Kelce, because Travis Kelce is a unique beast, but do you think he is that type of tight end that he can handle the workload, get open, stay healthy, all of it?
Stay healthy is the only question mark here, really, because yes, how could he be that much really? When you're looking at guys like Sam Laporta, who's, I mean, rookie last year, Trey McBride, rookie last year, but really, I don't think that he is. I think he has the potential to be top 7, maybe top 5. I
Okay.
really, and I think, and I know this is not a fantasy show, but I would go ahead, and if you're tight ends are tough to get in fantasy, and Pat Frame is a guy that I would nab because I know how they're planning on using him. And one thing that was egregious last year was when he was healthy in the lineup, that dope didn't know how to use him. And you know that's very unprofessional. I'm sorry, Matt Canada's not a dope. He's a doofus. Hey, we had to live with it. I'm sorry. But with that being said, you're looking at this. Van Jefferson, I like him better as a number 3, but he's gonna have some looks, and he's one of those guys that could really step up and do well. The rest, there's just no depth. If somebody gets hurt, this team is going to be in trouble, especially if it's a guy like Pickens. But I think Van Jefferson could really take some slack off of George Pickens. And another guy that I'm looking at here who we're not talking about, but he's making the team. I'm wearing the jersey because I almost screwed up on that. But Cordero Patterson as a wide receiver, I have a feeling that they're going to put him in some wide packages too. And we've seen what the guy has done as a receiver as well. Right now, it's make chicken salad out of it's making salad out of grass and roughage and whatever you find in the back of the fridge at this point. But you could have a very good stew. You could have a very good meal with stuff that nobody's expecting to be tasty.
Yeah. And so I think that we all have to take a wait and see approach to what this Steelers offense is going to look like. You mentioned the utilization of tight ends, and we can always look back on Arthur Smith's offenses, both in Atlanta and Tennessee, to give us an inkling, but he might have drawn it up differently in Pittsburgh, and we haven't seen it yet. So make sure that we just take a wait and see approach. And I'll tell you what, we're going to take a quick early break to hear a word from our friends at DraftKings, who we are partnered with, at least for the first 5 weeks of this NFL season, and their new Pick 6 app. We'll hear about that on the audio side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Thank you all for being patient. Make sure you do check out DraftKings. Go to DraftKings, check out the Pick 6 app. Use the code CURTAIN, 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 and all you do is bet $5. You get $50 in free plays and a month of NFL Plus Premium on the house just for signing up. So make sure you go check out the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. Use the code CURTAIN. All right, now let's talk about something that I wanted to title this podcast, because I don't want to talk about Brandon Aiyuk the whole time. And a lot of people this whole week, and we've done great content surrounding shutdowns, and the Steelers did make 8 players on their practice squad instead of 16. I'm not sure what they're doing there. We'll talk about that with Dave when he gets back here and joins us here shortly. But still, my question for everyone out there was, everyone is so enamored with players that were cut, players that were kept. And I keep on thinking to myself, holy crap, people aren't even looking at the players that are the core nucleus of this team. They're looking at the fringe. Bryan, I look at the nucleus of this team and I like what I see. I think there is a really good football team, starting with a defense that I think, if they can stay healthy, and I know that's a huge if, that is a top 5 defense in my opinion. And so let's start there. Like, let's look at the core. Let's look at the core of this team and tell me on defense where we're going wrong, because some people are making it sound like they're going to have a winless season.
Yeah, you know what? You're going to laugh at this, and this is almost going to sound completely ludicrous, because you definitely don't want him replacing anybody. But one place you're going wrong is not having a starting spot. And that's a good thing not to have a starting spot for Nick Herbig, because that guy has superstar written all over him, and he's being coached well as well. Now, he's going to get some action when these guys need breathers, because even when he was a second year player in the league, there was a lot of oxygen doled out to TJ Watt in the fourth quarter. We saw that you need to have that third guy to come in and spell them. But wow, that edge rusher core and the linebacking core in general is solid. Now, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to Bad Language the other day, but I was talking about depth, and we were talking about how depth was wicked awesome back in May. And now we're concerned about depth. But on the defensive side, it's hard. With the exception of the secondary, there's no depth problems on defense in the front seven.
Yeah. And I think back to last year and the year prior. If there's a defensive issue, well, what was it? Sometimes they didn't do well in run support. So I'm looking at this defensive front. Keanu Benton, I think, is going to have a huge season this year if he can stay healthy. Cam Hayward, I think he still has a lot left in the tank. I think that someone like DeMarvin Leal is going to play a very unique but an important role. Dean Lowry, not so sure about him yet because we just didn't get to see a whole lot. Isaiah Loudermilk and Lowry will probably be on that inactive bubble every single week. But I tell you what, Montravius Adams even has done a hell of a job this preseason, and he's had a great camp. I agree with you. I think that this defensive front, this defensive line has fixed. Oh, Larry Ogunjobi, who everyone said, which I don't know if you listened to the Steel City Insider podcast, but Jim Wexell said he talked to Cam Hayward about Larry Ogunjobi, and he said Larry's healthy for the first time he's been in Pittsburgh.
And
even though last year he practiced more and all that stuff, he said that he's healthy for the first time, and he looks good. He looks really good. And then let's go back a level to the linebackers. You mentioned Nick Herbig. The outside linebackers are, well, the best defensive player in the game, and TJ Watt. And I still think an underrated Alex Highsmith. But now you have the inside backers. That's always been a mistake, right? They never had the inside backers. Even with Cole Holcomb last year, it was better, but it wasn't like great. I think Landon Roberts and Patrick Queen can be great. And then you throw in, a little bit of Peyton Wilson in sub packages. I really like this linebacking core, don't you?
Yeah, and you throw in a Cole Holcomb when he's healthy, and that could be November, but that's a possibility. They left the door open for him. Now, when we're talking about the front seven, and this is something that almost kills me to say, but when I say this, it's almost flattery, because the biggest question mark is the age of Cam Hayward in that front seven, as far as I'm concerned, with the exception of, will everybody be healthy? But that's every team.
Yeah.
But Cam Hayward's probably your biggest question mark, but he still has a lot left in the tank. And if that is your biggest problem, then you have no problems.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. And then you talked about the secondary, and that's where there are some question marks. In the secondary, slot cornerback it's just not it. Like, whatever they're doing there, if I were to guess, so if someone's like, Jeff, if you're trying to predict what the Steelers are going to do when they go into their sub packages, my guess is this: in the nickel, Deshaun Elliott is in the slot. Then if they go into their dime, Corey Trice is that Cam Sutton type defensive back that goes onto the field. And if they need another secondary piece, if maybe they move DeMonte KZ there. I don't know. But I think that is the only position, because I really like Dante Jackson. And I think Dante Jackson is going to be much better. And everyone's already putting out tweets about Deontay Johnson would automatically be the wide receiver 2, but whatever. Dante Jackson might be better for the Steelers secondary than Deontay Johnson would be for the offense. We just don't know because we haven't seen him yet. So we got to keep that in mind too. And we welcome Dave Schofield to the show. Dave, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great. I had to catch up on YouTube, which is about 10 seconds behind what I hear when I hear you guys. So I did not miss a single word of the show. So I'm ready to jump in.
This is a good spot to get this super chat on the screen that I totally forgot. And I apologize to Nicholas Gabriel. He gave us $5. He said, I've been saying for months we can make all the moves and trades we want. Unfortunately, if you don't have a top 10-ish quarterback, you're not making much noise. And I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. So, all right, Dave, I want to give you an opportunity before we go to the offensive side of the ball to give us your thoughts on whether it's the Aiyuk situation, whether it's where the Steelers go from here. I left the practice squad news up. I didn't say we weren't going to talk about that until you got here because they only signed 8 out of 16, and they wait 24 hours longer than they had to. Anyways, Dave, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, they left me, the Steelers left me on red for 28 hours. It's like from yesterday at noon, I was waiting, and it was 4:00 today with the practice squad. But when it comes to the Aiyuk situation, I don't want to have to hear about it anymore. So I'm not going to talk about it, which is nice. And you guys did a fantastic job with that. When it comes to the defense, I really like what you all said, that wow, especially with the front part of that defense, the biggest question mark is going to be Cam Hayward's age and everything there. That's a really good point that people need to remember. But I think sometimes it's between fantasy football and just the way that people talk about football, especially on a national level, across the league, and not as individual stuff as we do here at Steel Curtain Network, is that it's all about offense. That's the glitz and glamour. And yeah, I think you need a really good quarterback. But it actually, last year, it was not the offense of the Kansas City Chiefs that won them the Super Bowl. It was the defense. I mean, if you go back and look at it, out of the 13 playoff games, there were 7 of those games where the winner scored 30 points or more, and 6 where they didn't. 4 of those 6 were the Kansas City Chiefs, who never scored more than 27 points in the playoffs in a single game. But when you're holding your opponent to under 16 points a game, that's why it happens. But they had the quarterback to go with it. You have a quarterback and a good defense, great things can happen. So don't take the emphasis off the defense. And some people will say, well, that's what the Steelers have to do because they're emphasizing it so much, especially with their payroll. But you know what? It can still win you games. Even in the postseason, not in spite of no offense. You can't do it without offense, but you don't have to have as prolific of an offense as long as your defense is getting the job done. And this Steelers defense is exciting.
Absolutely. So the offensive side of the ball, I think, Dave, it's a good segue into the offensive side because there are definitely concerns. And on the offensive line, you hear about Isaac Seumalo missing about a month. So if you track that to earlier this week. So if you're doing the weeks, is it 4 to 6, whatever, he's going to miss a good chunk of the first part of the season. However, that's the part of the season that's most people would say is softer. So maybe that's okay. I think Spencer Anderson is probably going to get the nod over Mason McCormick. Brian, do you agree?
Yes, at this point, I kind of feel that he is. But if the coaching staff feels that Mason McCormick is ready right now, more power to him, because you only have a difference of 1 year in the system.
All right, Dave, what do you think about Spencer Anderson and the guard situation?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think Spencer Anderson plays much better at guard than he does at tackle from what we saw with the preseason. Is it ideal? No, you don't want to see one of your top offensive linemen going down. Was Isaac Seumalo having the greatest preseason ever when he did play? No, he wasn't. So I'm not saying that wouldn't have translated into the season. I think what the Steelers are going to be missing as much as anything is the veteran leadership. He was the leader of that room. And when your leader goes down, now is he still going to be there and on the sidelines? Yes. Are the guys going to rally because they've got to pick up the slack because their leader is out? Or are they just going to kind of be in disarray with communication and everything else because they don't have that leadership there? That's ultimately what we're going to see over these next couple weeks.
All right. So there's a possibility, believe it or not, that they could have 3 rookies on the starting line at some point in the early portions of the season. If they deem Mason McCormick to be ready, if they deem Troy Fautanu to be ready, you could have Fautanu, Frazier, and McCormick all starting. And there would be growing pains, but it would also be a sign of things to come and this young group that's probably going to hopefully stay together for a very long time. We talked about a lot about wide receiver. I don't feel like we need to continue to beat that dead horse. I want to ask about the running game, though. We talked about the quarterback as well, but the running game. Bryan's wearing his jersey. Cordero Patterson, I kind of pushed him to the side and said, this guy, what is he, a return specialist? Do we really need that in 2024 with these weird rules and all that? But then against Detroit, he showed, well, he still has some burst. Give him a hole. He can make something happen. What do y'all think about the running game, Bryan?
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with Najee and Jaylen Warren. And of course, we didn't see a lot of Jaylen Warren because he got hurt. And I get that. Still didn't see a lot of Najee either. We were seeing Dejon Edwards. We were seeing LaMichael Perrine. We were seeing guys like that. And which that's kind of what you see in the preseason. If I foreshadow my final thoughts and with everything on this team, I don't think you get a good sample size with your starters that well in preseason. And I don't think we have, but when they ran, even when people were complaining about the offensive line and the running, these guys were still averaging over 4 yards per carry. And I get it. And I'm not even talking about Justin Fields in that mix. I'm just talking about the pure running backs. So I'm not concerned about the running game. I think it's going to be like Dave said, a defense heavy team. You said as well. And I think it's going to be a run heavy team. And I think that actually helps your quarterback play as well. But with Najee playing for without the fifth year option and playing for his life, and we see how he runs angry and runs hard. And when you have Jaylen Warren to me is like, and I hope this isn't offensive to anybody, it's kind of like an orphan. And an orphan is always looking to prove themselves and stay in the family, because even though they have a wonderful situation with their new family, they don't want to lose it. And I kind of feel that way with a undrafted free agent like Jaylen Warren. Even though there's people are buying his jerseys now, people are singing his praises, he's always going to stay hungry. He's going to stay orphan hungry. That's your next t-shirt, Jeff. But so I'm not worried about that. And we talked earlier, Dave, I know you heard us talking. You're going to see Cordero Patterson as a Swiss Army knife, lining up as a receiver, coming in third down for gadgetry. And apparently he hasn't lost everything that we thought he had. And he also probably wasn't that healthy at the beginning of the season, but with the hole that he got on that 31-yard run, wow, he looked like he could still do it. And I think that's a weapon that the Steelers have that is it's not one they're going to feature, but one they're going to bring ninja in and surprise you.
All right. Dave, before you go, I want to get some super chats here. Wes gives us $2. He said, love you all. That is all. Go Steelers. Thank you, Wes. We do appreciate it. We love all the people that listen and subscribe to the YouTube channel and all that good stuff. Let's get the other one up here. Brandon King gave us $4.99. He said, did we hold off on restructures or other moves to save cap space for the BA trade? Maybe now we can make a couple lower tier subtle moves. Now I'll throw it to Dave in a second, but I will say I'm a firm believer that the Alex Highsmith restructure was to create enough money for a trade at one point. And it was obviously reported
at draft time. Yes,
at the draft time, they thought that there was a trade done. I don't know who it was with. They were originally going after Deebo Samuel. Then they shifted. Cortland Sutton was discussed as well. And then things fell through. But a lot of people were wondering with Cam, like their thoughts on that situation. The longer it goes, the more I wonder if the Steelers are just going to let this year go, let him play with that inflated cap number, and then deal with it after this season. Dave, what's your take on it as a cap guy?
Yeah, I still need to go looking into some things with the cap because how much has changed since going down to 53. Now they're signing players to the practice squad. You got to get new players to the practice squad, IR things, stuff like that. Cole Holcomb, you are saving 2.9 million with him right now because he is on PUP. None of that comes back until he comes off PUP, and it's however many games he's off PUP. I did an article about that to try to explain it. It's not about what you could be, it's what you are right now. That's why there's no money from Cam Sutton right now counting towards the Steelers salary cap. But guys on IR, they do count. It's all tricky in how they do that. They don't have like this huge deficit right now. They really don't. They're fine. And a Cam Hayward deal that lowers this year's salary cap.
Yeah.
So the Steelers might just say, hey, Cam, we're actually okay this year, so we don't need to do it now if you don't want to do it now either. But I don't see why Cam wouldn't want to. You would want to lock that up before you would have to risk yourself on the football field. So I don't think that's exactly it. But from a financial standpoint, if they can absorb all that, the last year where a guy is on the books, if it's a big contract, and all the restructures and anything else all gets pushed out to that last year. My goodness, look at what's going to happen in Cleveland no joke. By the time it's said and done, they might have a quarterback counting $100 million against the salary cap if they keep pushing it, kicking the can down the road with him that much. They've already got 2 years of over 75 million that are due after this year.
Yeah.
So there's things that can be done, but with Cam, that would actually lower his amount now. So I don't think that's really inhibiting them with much at all, because anyone else you would bring in, their lowest hit's going to be that first year with something like that. So I don't know that that's a driving force right now.
Okay. Let's go back to the topic, though. Dave, the running game. What's your thoughts on the running game this season?
Thoughts on the running game this season? It's really, I think the Steelers need to lean hard on it. It's not that the running game has to carry them, but the running game has to be successful enough in order to let them pass the ball more. But
That's
at the
fair.
same time, you could say that the Steelers, even last year, the year before, their threat of the pass was so little, teams just would just line up and not let them run the ball. So it really is going to take the balance. But I feel it really comes down to the offensive line and everything that they put together there, if they can really give the support to the running game that they need.
Absolutely. So I think there's a lot of reasons that the Steelers, I like the nucleus of this team. Well, they're dealing with some stuff. We'll see how that works its way out. But I talk about it on my Friday Let's Ride podcast. I'll plug that now. There's reasons for hope. I give a lot of reasons for there to be hope in the 2024 Steelers. All right, we're going to take another quick break here. When we come back, I have one really burning question I want to ask these two guys. We're going to update our over-unders and put a cap on the preseason, and then we're going to do some Steelers trivia to finish out the show. So we'll be right back. If you're watching live on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, don't go anywhere. We're not going anywhere. Otherwise, we'll be right back. All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. Thank you for being patient, sticking around. The burning question that I wanted to ask these two fellas is about Omar Khan. Omar Khan, since he's come onto the job, it went from, well, it's an internal hire, we hate this. Now all of a sudden he's fleecing everybody. He's getting a second-round pick for Chase Claypool. He's doing this, he's doing that, all of it. So this is the first time that there's even in our live chat right now for those watching live that are like, oh, he choked. Omar Khan choked. Does how the Brandon Aiyuk situation and the way the roster's been built with some glaring holes still remain, does that in any way, shape, or form change your view of Omar Khan? Brian, we'll start with you.
You ever go shopping for something and you decide not to buy something because it's just not what you want, even though there's stuff you need, but it doesn't fit your needs, so you're just not going to spend money on it? That's what Omar Khan is to me right now. Omar Khan did not choke. Omar Khan did not get taken advantage of in this situation. Omar Khan was there to pick up the pieces should the 49ers go ahead and fall apart. Because look, this whole situation, it didn't come down to the fact that the Steelers were waiting in the wings, especially if you, like I was saying, I was listening to the Gold Standard today. This wasn't to go ahead and force anything on the 49ers, because the 49ers they were fine with getting nothing out of him and fining him $45,000 each day, like they did today for yesterday for missing practice. And he missed practice today. So that was $90,000. They were fine with that. They were going to do that. I do not think that Omar Khan was taking advantage at all in this situation. Did he go out and get somebody else in the meantime? There's no one to get, because CD Lamb signed. DK Metcalf they're not cutting him loose. There's other players out there. Cortland Sutton, who seemed like a guy they can get. Denver signed him. And we just learned while this show was on our Slack channel, it came across that the San Francisco 49ers offered a third round pick to the Denver Broncos for Cortland Sutton so they could turn around and trade Brandon Aiyuk to the Steelers. They could not get what they wanted to go ahead and give them up. So were the Steelers a pawn in this whole thing? You could say that, but no, the Steelers were the team that were going to get the spoils of this. And Omar Khan was going to take advantage of the situation. But in the end, it wasn't something that he could take advantage of. It wasn't something he can do. The struggle was between player and team out in Northern California.
All right, Dave, what's your take on Khan?
Well, I will say this. I would question them signing this particular wide receiver for the reported deal that they were doing, which basically put him right up to TJ Watt money as an outside signing. That alone would have surprised me from the Steelers, yet even having to do the trade to go with it. That was the thing, that would have surprised me as well. And sometimes it's so many things that you saw on social media that I would see people post. I'm like, don't click on comments. Don't click on comments to some of the posts that are out there by people that are saying stuff that I follow. And I'm like, because you're going to get things like the Steelers just need to get this done. Give them whatever they want. I'm like, what does giving George Pickens to them for Brandon Aiyuk and having to pay Aiyuk accomplish? It doesn't accomplish anything. Did you want to give up Pickens for Aiyuk? Did you want to give up Minkah Fitzpatrick, who was another player that they were inquiring about if they weren't going to get it? Because they thought they could have flipped him for a wide receiver if that's what they really wanted. And some of those things, no. So sometimes you're making the right move by not making the move. If you're constantly overpaying, you become the Cleveland Browns. Now, are the Browns semi-relevant right now? Yeah, they still haven't won a division ever, but the North ever. But that's what you have to be careful of. So you can't just always pull a deal because you need something else when the deal is ultimately going to hurt you in the long run. That's why it's really interesting to see how the trade ultimately works out, that they did Deontay Johnson with Dante Jackson. Yes, I feel like the Steelers needed to have more wide receiver if they were going to trade Deontay Johnson. But you also were able to get a number 2 cornerback, and let's see how that ultimately plays out as well. So that was a give and take of kind of swapping similar things, a number 2 receiver for a number 2 corner. So I'm not saying that, this was, he's pulled off some genius stuff, but after the Steelers did what they were doing early on in free agency. That's what I'm looking for. What they did in free agency, how they completely overhauled the quarterback room, how they drafted, where they stayed put pat and got the guys that they wanted without having to move for them and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, because there's a talk about this wide receiver for 3 months that just kept going on and on and on and on and on, people were saying, he did a bad job. It's like everything else didn't matter. So I, for one, am happy that the Steelers didn't overpay. But yes, their offense isn't going to be as good as what it would have been. So let's just go and see what else they have in store for us before week 1 or beyond.
Yeah, and Noah Brown's a name that's been tossed around in the live chat as a potential answer, but he signed with the Commanders. He's with the Washington
practice squad too.
Yeah.
Yep. So technically, the Steelers could pull him off the practice squad if they wanted, but they'd have to put him on their active roster immediately. So,
and that's if they want him. And if a guy's on a practice squad right now, then is that a guy that you're really going to scream to go get?
I mean, the Steelers did that last year with Darius Rush. He was on the Kansas City Chiefs practice squad, I believe. They had to elevate him right away. So, all right, that's enough. Let's talk about some. Dave, you want to update our over/under from the preseason? That's a wrap.
I have it here, but I might need your guys' help on the stats because I've been gone all day. Honestly, before I got on the screen, for those of you that know my brother, Big Brosco, I was standing in his kitchen 2 hours before hearing about his son shooting his first eagle today. Jeff, that would interest you.
Wow, they're an endangered species. Come on.
He got a 3 on a par 5. Hearing about that, and then here I am driving through torrential downpours to make sure I'm here with you guys. So I need some help.
I have the box score pulled up.
Well, the Steelers turnovers. We all took the under. That was correct of 1.5, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And their takeaways, they had just the 1, right? No, they had 2. No. Why can't I remember?
Look.
It was just the 1.
Let me look. I've got it.
Since the 53-man roster came out, I'm forgetting of what basically most of the last preseason game.
Yeah, turnovers. Yeah. They had 1.
Okay, so they had 1 takeaway. The points allowed.
No, I'm sorry. They had 2. They had 2. The
2.
Lions had a fumble lost and an interception thrown.
Okay, I know they had the fumble loss. I'm trying. What was the interception? I'm trying to remember who had that. Because I know it was the strip sack.
The interception, I'm looking right here, was Cameron Sutton.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. The Sutton one. And Rich has asked me, no, I didn't stop at the casino on the way home. I came back to spend time with my buddies here to be here with you guys. So that was the over. So that one does go to Bryan. Points allowed. 13.5. Well, that was the over.
Yep.
Okay. Russell Wilson pass attempts.
He had 2.
12.5. It was 2. I said way under. So that was good. And Fields rushing yards. How many rushing yards did he have?
Let me see.
40.
I don't think
40.
He had 40?
That's passing yards. Sorry.
Rushing yards, he had 4.
He had 4.
Okay. So what that means ultimately was, remember, we were tied coming into this. We had Jeff with 2 and both Bryan and I with 4.
Nice. Good job.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Fields rushing yards got you, Bryan. And that was the only one you got wrong. The only one I got wrong was the takeaways. I had under for 1.5. So
all right. Let's get this super chat here. Brandon King gives us $1.99. Says Khan has done so well. We thought we had a chance. Yeah, it's one way of looking at it for sure. Thank you for the tip. We always appreciate anyone that's willing to give their money to the program. So, all right. So the preseason over-under is done. We're going to be starting fresh next week with week 1. And we do have some Steelers trivia to finish out the show. Bryan, go ahead.
All right. You can look other places, but I believe I was looking at Caesars today for the Steelers odds, the preseason odds to win the Super Bowl, and it's plus 5,000. Now, I'm looking at preseason odds, and I think the first time that they were put out were 1976. That's as far back as I can see. So since 1976, what are the worst odds what year were the worst odds that the Pittsburgh Steelers were tabbed with to win the Super Bowl? And what was the best year for odds? And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, it was a tie between 2 years.
For the best since 76.
Since 76.
Their worst odds. Okay. I can think this through.
I'll be curious.
Well, their best odds, I wouldn't be shocked if their best odds would it be the year following a Super Bowl? I wonder.
That's what I was thinking. I was
wonder
thinking
if
2009.
actually, or in 2005, after going 15-1, that they might have had really good odds. You think they would have had good odds?
Yes, I
Jeff?
do. I was going to say that or 09 as the best odds. I was going to guess worst odds could be, I was thinking 2004 because they finished 2003 at 6-10. And so there wasn't a lot of hope that year. And Tommy Maddox was still the quarterback.
You know, could have been didn't they finish 6-10 in 99? Maybe it could have been 2000.
Yep.
Maybe.
Are
we close?
I mean, I'm trying to think if they were.
Oh, we're not close.
Yeah, no, they're educated guesses and they're very good. But you would be shocked to know that now there were a lot of plus 7,500s, and some of those that you mentioned were in there. But there was actually a plus 8,000, and it was 2022.
That didn't shock me. That wouldn't shock me.
So
I think about it.
So I guess Kenny Pickett's rookie season 2022 was the worst. Now the best, yeah, you guys are pretty close. It was 79-80 because coming off of 2 Super Bowl wins,
Yeah,
plus 250. I mean, minus 250. I think was what they were.
They had minus odds.
I believe, I'm sorry, they were plus 250. Excuse me.
Okay.
It was
plus minus odds on a future.
I should have thought about 79
Yeah.
and 80. Yeah,
but 250 is.
Oh no, those
Wow.
are staggering odds. But if they had
Yeah.
minus odds, like shoot, that's insane.
So that was my quickest version of a pretty cool trivia question.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would love to look back into that. So that's interesting. Dave, I'm sure you have trivia, right?
You think so? I've been traveling. I actually don't have great trivia, and mine actually isn't as it's more of a. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find out what my DraftKings odds are. That I have where I got the Steelers, where I bet for the Steelers to win the Super Bowl this year. I'll have to get back to you on that because right now
pre-draft they were plus 5,500, and so if Bryan says they went, and that was via DraftKings.
Yeah, and I have to update my app. That's why I can't do it.
If they've gone to plus 5,000, then it's trending in the good direction.
And that was Caesars, and that was one of the first ones that I saw.
Okay.
Well, that's because you didn't have DraftKings back then. That's why. So
For this year?
no, I meant he went back to 76.
I know. I was like,
Yeah. Okay.
maybe.
So I've almost got it. Come on. I know. I
and-
know. Kevin Hart is great. Come on.
Real quick, Fox Sports is also saying plus 5,000 is what they're
Okay.
reporting as well.
Okay. What did you say you had with the Steelers this year right now?
Plus 5,000.
I'm
I
talking
got the
currently.
Steelers. I made this one back in the spring. I got them at plus 7,500.
Okay.
to win the
Like I
Super
said,
Bowl.
I remember
Yeah.
after it was maybe after the draft. I saw it
Yeah.
plus 55. So it
Yes.
might have changed.
So, but I mean, I know I did that before they had different quarterbacks. So, all right, my I think you guys might know this one. My trivia isn't as much about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm getting into regular season form. Okay. Who are the biggest offensive weapons that the Pittsburgh Steelers have to worry about against the Atlanta Falcons come week 1?
Say that again, Dave.
Who are the biggest offensive weapons that the Steelers have to worry about with the Atlanta Falcons come week 1?
Bijan Robinson, Drake London,
Kyle Pitts.
Pitts,
and Kirk Cousins.
That's the 4. That's the 4 I was looking at. How many combined snaps did they play in the preseason?
Oh, goodness. I don't know.
Combined?
Yep.
Probably
I know none of them played in the third game. Like he didn't play any starters in the third game. And that's Raheem Morris down in Atlanta. So I'm going to say that combined they played 25.
I said 20, so we're in the same boat.
Okay. You could add Michael Penix Jr. to that to this thing.
Well, he only played in one game.
And Jeff, you would still be the over.
Jeez.
Because Penix played 24 snaps in the first game, and none of those other players played at all.
Wow.
So people that are saying, "Oh, well, the Steelers did they play Wilson enough? He's new." Oh, and blah blah blah. They did not play Kirk Cousins, and they only played Penix in the first game, and then wouldn't play him after that. And he's not even going to be your starter. And he's a rookie that you took with the 8th overall pick or something like that. To look in the future, they didn't play anybody. Now they went 0-3, and I think it's crazy because you guys know how many combined games the AFC North won in this preseason.
One.
Yeah.
And who was that?
Baltimore.
The Ravens.
Over
the Kings of the preseason.
Yeah. They were 1-2 with their one win over
Atlanta,
who went 0-3. So it'll be 0-3 preseason matchups come week 1. So I just find it very interesting that, I mean, I know that wasn't great trivia, but it was.
No, it's good.
It was bringing up a little bit of a fun fact that, so you can say you don't really know what to expect from their opponent. You're like, are the Steelers going to come out rusty because they didn't work enough in the preseason? Maybe, but they still worked more in the preseason than what the Falcons did.
Well, it's going to be interesting this week, and we're back to injury reports. And so it's going to be really interesting next week. Is Kirk Cousins on an injury report? I mean, they haven't had to do anything like that. So everyone's asking the question, is he healed? He ruptured his Achilles tendon last year. You can say in a practice setting, yeah, I'm good. And then TJ Watt's coming around the edge and maybe you're not so good. So,
and you're 30, 36, 38.
No, he's not that old.
Cousins?
No, he came in the same year as RG3, who came in the same year as Russell Wilson, actually. So you're probably right, Brian.
He's looking it up right now.
Oh, I am. I am.
He's the younger quarterback scheduled to be there for the starter for week 1. Cousins or Wilson?
36 in 10 days.
And 10 days or in 10 days?
And 10 days. He's August 19th. August 19th is his birthday. So
so you say he's 36 and 10 days.
Remember what they were. Remember in week 1 when Aaron Rodgers went down. They're like, that's people recover from that, but when you're in your late 30s, it's a lot harder to recover from that injury.
Yeah.
So Russell Wilson, 35 and 274 days. So he's the difference of August 19th to November 29th.
But not coming off an Achilles. Not coming off.
Exactly. I'm just saying, if you want to talk about, quarterbacks being older, they're, my goodness, they're only months apart with their age. That's interesting.
Okay. All right, Brian, final thoughts. Go ahead.
All right. So, I could do my whole rah-rah thing, and it might be a little bit here, but how I'm cognizant of our fans and even the pessimists. And one of my best friends in the world is I remember about when I was first getting to know him about 15 years ago when he was coming over to my house. This is a guy that is everything. Everything is it's okay, and he's just errs on the side of pessimism. I love this guy dearly, but he can have a threesome with supermodels and he would say it was all right, just because nothing's awesome to him. And so he texted me yesterday and says, all right, Samalu went down, they're gonna be lucky to win 5 games. I'm like, come on, this team is and I really think if you're looking at this team having a bad season, I'm still putting in around 8 games if it's a bad season, because I know what this team can go ahead and do. So we bet a steak dinner on it, and I'm hoping to win that steak dinner. And I actually think I'm going to, because something I said earlier on in this show, I'm going to repeat it again. And we could even say the same thing after listening to Dave's trivia question about the Atlanta Falcons. In this day and age, preseason does not tell you the story of what the football team is going to look like. Now, it can give you some things to worry about, but those guys do not play together. There's going to be some rust all across the league on week 1, but most fan bases, I would say 80% of fan bases across the league right now feel the same about their team like you do as Pittsburgh Steelers fans. So again, fan the way you want to fan, but know that this is a team that they do best when you think they're nothing.
All right. Dave Schofield, final thoughts.
You want to do the super chat first?
No, go ahead. I'll do that.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Just making sure you saw it. Yeah.
Yep.
Final thoughts. This is our last week of not previewing a game until, my goodness, when's the bye week? Is it late October or November?
Week 7?
I thought it was week 9.
It's week 9. I'm trying to remember what month that's in. That's all the only thing I can remember.
November.
Oh, November. Okay. So it's going to be a while. So this is great. This is what we've been trying to get to. I don't know about the rest of you if your kids are back in school. To me, as soon as kids go back in school, my kids actually start on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. When kids are back in school, I'm like, might as well bring on the fall. Bring on cool weather. Bring on football. Bring on all the cool holidays that we get into between now and the end of the year. Bring it all on because if summer's over and kids are back in school, we might as well get the best part of the year where we have the best weather, the best Sundays, the best time just talking about what we actually see on the field and all this talk and hype and everything else that we've had to be doing since the middle of January. And then everything that changes, everyone that has their opinion about how things are going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers, you'll actually be able to form it on things on the field where teams are actually trying to win the game and not just assess certain things. So it was great to see the Steelers get back on the field for the preseason. It was great when they got back to training camp. Now I want to see them on the field actually trying to win. And let's get her done.
All right. Let's do the super chat here. Nicholas Gabriel gave us another $5. He said, so Jeff, how's that 3-year plan of yours? He's referring to on Let's Ride back in 2022. I said they were on a 2 to 3 year rebuild. With what happened at the quarterback position, scrap it all. Until they
It's reset. You have to. I mean, it was.
Well,
I'm
not resetting it because let's say Justin Fields turns out to be the guy. I'm going to set a new parameter. So I got to see how this thing plays out. But he said in a real question, how do we as fans balance the optimism, pessimism with realistic expectations? First and foremost, think for yourself. Don't let other people dictate how you feel about your favorite team. Second thing I would say is really, really simple. Don't trust your eyes. We all fooled ourselves at times with Kenny Pickett thinking that he was something that really he wasn't. And it was because we just hoped that, they spent a first round pick on this guy. Like he should be playing better, but our eyes were telling us that it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So just take it as it is. Take a wait and see approach with this team. That's what I'm doing. We'll see how it goes. Dave, what do you want to add?
I was going to say, if you're looking for reasonable expectations, your show for that one is make sure you check out Pittsburgh Standard Time.
There you go. Very good. All right. This has been another great show.
I'm plugging it, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm excited for next show because we'll be previewing the first regular season game of the 2024 season when they play the Atlanta Falcons on the road in week 1. So make sure you're checking that out. Make sure you're checking out SteelCurtainNetwork.com for all your Steelers needs. That's SteelCurtainNetwork.com. Check out all of our work at the Steel Curtain Network podcast platform that includes our audio-only podcasts like Pittsburgh Standard Time, like Bryan's Bad Language and the Here We Go show and my Let's Ride podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But for Bryan and Dave, thank you all for listening. Dave, why don't you send us out?
Hey.
We'll see you next week. Take it easy, everyone.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.